And we are back for our favorite segment of the episode. It is Keep It. Lewis,
Yes.
What's on your mind?
My Keep It this week is to the Cher memoir, which came out. I got it as a Christmas gift because I asked for it angrily. And I am excited
I would
to
just
dig into
give
it.
that to you in general.
No, like I'm sure if you were like, in Barnes & Noble, I'm like, I better get this for Lewis just in case he doesn't have it. I'm excited to read it. I haven't even started yet. But I just learned that Cher does not do the full audiobook for her own memoir because she is...
Excuse me?
Excuse you. She is incredibly dyslexic, and she's not going to stand there and read the entire audiobook. So Stephanie J. Block, who won a Tony for playing Cher in the Cher show, is reading it. Cher, bitch, unacceptable. Can you stand at the mic and just make up a memoir and say it into the microphone? Thank you. Just tell me what you remember about Sonny. Tell me what you remember about, I don't know, Johnny Carson being a dick to you or whatever's going on in the 60s and 70s. Tell me about I Got You, Babe. Tell me about Turn Back Time. Tell me about Believe. Tell me about Auto-Tune. Tell me about Chaz. Whatever. Just start. It can be a 15-minute audiobook. Great. I just want to hear those things and you saying it, being self-deprecating. Maybe, you know what she should have done? She should have stood at a mic, you know, the way like Fran Lebowitz does, and just taken questions and then responded to those. In fact, the question should have been only from me. It should just be me and her speaking. Remember when you were coming to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean Cher, and she's like, I sure do. You know, that'd be great.
I would, and you could finally get to the bottom of why she erased it from her filmography.
When she won that Oscar, yes, she won an Oscar, and she said to Meryl Streep, you were in my first movie with me, which is not true. That was Silkwood, which is after Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean, and Chastity from the 60s. I'm like a movie detective.
I'd love to see that series.
Yeah. Oh, please. Let me get
Lewis,
to the bottom
movie detective.
Yeah. Let me get to the bottom of something that nobody is wondering about. Great.
It would be like Bored to Death.
Yes. Oh my God. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Zach Galifianakis, what are we doing with you?
He's behind like a couple ferns or something. I think they got one more.
he's behind three or four ferns.
Honestly, I am shocked that the book was not written just in a way where she spoke and they transcribed everything that she said.
Yeah.
Because then you could have just used that for the audiobook. You know, if you knew that was going to be the problem, I would have attacked it head on from the beginning, because you want a Barbra Streisand, you want a Mariah Carey moment from her doing the audiobook. By the way, when I'm at any party these days and holiday season, I was at many, you could just find me in a corner telling a gay man that he needs to listen to The Meaning of Mariah, the audiobook.
Oh,
because
please.
It's the best thing I've ever listened to.
No, it's that and the Barbra Streisand memoir. Again, I literally remember where I was listening to different parts of that book. I'm like, oh my God, I was in Puerto Vallarta when I got to What's Up Doc and all this stuff. Audiobooks stick with you. It's like a pretty underrated medium, even though it's a cheap fucking way to get a Grammy. And I'm looking at you, Helen Hayes. Well,
as you know, I am also in the midst of recording my audiobook.
Oh my God, I hate you being Grammy eligible. It takes a fucking village over here. Fuck you.
Either I will be Grammy nominated, or I can say that I'm, like Nicki Minaj.
Just nothing at all.
Yeah.
Not on the board, shall we say.
I can rail against the Grammys when I'm not nominated in a Nicki style rant.
Right. Okay. Well, I look forward to that Queen Radio moment for you. Ira, what is your Keep It?
Well, speaking of queens, my Keep It goes to a diva on the new series Selling the City, which, as you can imagine, is the New York version of Selling Sunset.
Okay.
This one takes place at Douglas Elliman, the real estate company, instead of the Oppenheimer Group, which is in Los Angeles and then also in Orange County for Selling the OC. The show is fun. It's not as good as the other two series I just mentioned, but I love just spending time with women bickering while they're selling real estate.
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, real estate TV, unfortunately, is always good. I love that $1 Million Listing show with those true douchebags.
There is a woman on the show named Jordan Taylor, whose Big thing is that she used to date Trevor Noah.
Okay. Sure. I'm sure
And
several
at,
people have.
and at one point in the series, she says she talks about how they met. She says that they met on Twitter, and first of all, I'd like to see those interactions.
Okay.
They met on Twitter, and she says that she was the funny one in their relationship, and that he often stole her material, and she would see it on The Daily Show.
What on earth were they talking about all the time? What kind of geopolitical things were they just babbling about? And he was like, allow me to take this to the television.
Obviously, delusion is a big part of being a good reality star. You know,
Right.
you want someone to be delusional, but we're jumping out the window here. Ma'am, I do not think that Trevor Noah was going into The Daily Show every day and repeating your jokes to the writing staff.
And then saying, and we have to put them in. You know, these can't be punched up. Well, also, it's very much like when you say something like that, you have to give me an example. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
say the thing you actually said that ended up on the show, because it's just so unlikely. Like drafts for shows like that go through like 7 or 8 iterations before they actually make it to air, and they're pared down, etc. So for her, it seems very unlikely that something she would say at random would end up on the show.
And multiple times.
Right.
You know, like this isn't a Big Eyes situation here. Big
Which
jokes.
is apparently our favorite movie. Big Eyes, big jokes.
Also, but I do want to say something about that, just in the sense of if you're dating like a comedian or a writer or something, obviously they draw from their real life, and you draw from conversations that you have with people. Naturally, funny shit that you say with your friends will end up in your comedy, but when it goes through, as you said, drafts in a writer's room, or even just if you're a stand-up working on jokes and doing punch-ups or just finding out what works in a room and what doesn't, no one is lifting your comedy, girl.
Yeah, right. It doesn't feel diabolical. Like I just can't picture a version where she's being screwed over to that nth degree. That said, I'm going to investigate myself. I want to see what this works.
Yeah.
Is she funny?
She's kind of funny. She's kind of like a light bitch. Not as much as this girl Jade, who was a full-on hater. Like old school hater, okay? She is a bitch and is constantly attacking this girl Eleanor, and yet on the show people keep saying, I thought they were friends, and when they're not in the same scene as each other, they're always like, well, you know, she's my good friend, but she's really pissing me off.
Oh wow, they're really at it. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Jordan, she's fine. I just want to say that lastly, she does not want to be known mostly for having dated Trevor Noah. She wants to make a name for herself in real estate, right? But then they're talking about selling a condo to Michael B. Jordan, and she wants to handle it because, as you know, I'm good with celebrities.
Oh, is that what that means? Also, they're like a species? Michael B. Jordan and Trevor Noah have very little in common to me.
Well, they have one thing.
Go ahead.
Apartheid.
Okay. Oh, what? Okay. You're putting the fruit in Fruitvale Station today, bitch.
All right. When we are back, we will be joined by words can't even describe how amazing this woman is, Marianne Jean-Baptiste. You know this week's guest from Secrets and Lies and Without a Trace, but she also gave one of Lewis and I's favorite performances of the year in Mike Leigh's Hard Truths. The film offers a spectacularly layered look at mental health, family ties, and how the two intersect in humorous and heartbreaking ways. You've won the National Society of Film Critics Award, the New York Film Critics Circle, and the LA Film Critics Association. We are wanting that Oscar for you. Please welcome to Keep It. It's Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God. I mean, it's so staggering to even bring up this movie because it's about such an unusual character. This is basically a woman who gets into a hostile confrontation every time she leaves the house. It might just even be with herself. It can be with anybody, and you're sort of figuring out what's with her, and then the movie doesn't give you any easy solutions. And then when you read about making this movie and the months and months and months of character work that went into creating it, it's extra staggering. I mean, there's probably nobody on the planet who knows a single character better than you know this person.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, because we create them from scratch, basically. You know, whenever you work with Mike Lee, you know the instructions are. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what you'll be doing in it. But we're going to have a good time, and we're going to go on a journey of discovery, and that's what happens.
And so I listened to this beautiful conversation that you had with Anjanou Ellis about your roles in This and Hard Truth and Hers and Nickel Boys. And you talked a bit about creating this character. And I guess you said that Mike tells you to come in with, sort of 5 people you imagine, and then you're sort of creating a character from, an amalgam of these people. But sort of, who did you come in with when you started this? What was on your mind? I'm working with Mike again. He's asking me to bring something in. Like, what did you just sort of think about bringing to the table?
Well, with Mike, as you previously mentioned, it's not my first rodeo. So I actually went in with a list of over 100 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we sit down and you discuss all of the characters and whittle them down. And, we landed on about 5 people. I'm really sorry. The tea's arrived. So I have to open the door.
Please get the tea.
I'll take you with me. Hi. Yeah. So I ended up with about 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
But that is just to root the character in reality. Mm-hmm. Because at that point we do these exercises, which he calls trade secrets, and to merge the characters, which are both physical and, lots of discussion. Thank you. And then you start again from scratch. You say, okay, do you feel this person? Do you get a sense of who they are? And you go, yeah, I do. Or you kind of go, oh, God, yeah, no, I'm not sure. And you start from first memory. Okay, then you work up all the way through going to school, teachers, friends, or not having friends in some people's cases. And then when they get to a certain age, you might go into rehearsal room and somebody else will be sat there. Like in my case, it was Michelle Austin. And he'd say, okay, these 2 characters are going to be playing sisters. And of course, she would have gone through the same process in isolation with him. And then you start again, Pansy's 3 years older than Chantal. So what was it like when she came home from the hospital? Blah, blah, blah. Then you start making a history together.
And that history is very apparent on screen. Like, you watch this family interact, and it just feels like there's a lot of shared history there. But also staggering about this movie is just the amount of silences among the family here. Like, this is a movie that you kind of think is going to be all hard conversations, and then it really turns a corner into something totally different, which also brings to mind something else that's crazy about the situation. You have no script when you start with Mike Lee. You have no idea what's going to happen, or basically even how big your part's going to be. So when you're making this movie, are you just putting all your trust in him, or do you feel like, do you just throw your hands up and say, I have no idea what I'm giving, I hope it's enough?
Yeah, literally. I mean, you do, because I should mention as well that he makes it very clear from the beginning. You will only know what your character knows. Mm. So in a lot of the sessions when we're working together, for example, Pansy's memory of Chantal coming home from the hospital, Michelle would have to pop out of the room because she wouldn't know what Pansy thought about her coming home from the hospital. So it kind of keeps everything honest. You cannot sort of pre-plan anything. Oh, I'm going to react like this, or, that's going to happen, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's like life, we can make assumptions about things, but we don't know for sure.
Do you ever think to yourself, Mike Lee, can you please just be normal? Can you please just make this easier for me? I'm in here for months making this damn movie with you.
There are times where you just, like, I mean, I'd go home from rehearsals, especially when you're working with him in isolation, and it's just you and him talking all day, and I'd just be like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I do not want to be asked another question ever in life, you know? Yeah, you want to strike. Well, I mean, when he killed off Pearl, who is Chantel and Pansy's mother, we wanted to kill him. We were just like, we were so attached to her. And we went out and had a drink together to commiserate after rehearsals, because we were like, God, who could play Pearl? What actress is he going to bring in? We were getting really excited about it. Then he killed her off, and it was like, damn.
So my question, I guess, next question is about the technical aspects of your rehearsing, your improvising. At what point do you sort of solidify a scene? Is it then transcribed, or, you know, how can you get sort of the script there so that the other parts of the film can sort of come into play?
Right. So what happens is, like, we worked 14 weeks. The majority of those 14 weeks are spent building the world, building all the characters, the history, you know, relationships, going right up until where the film starts. At that point, we move into location, and he likes to say, scene by scene, location by location, sequence by sequence. We improvise, and those improvisations are repeated and honed and are very, very sort of like locked in. So by the time we shoot anything, nothing is improvised on camera. Everybody knows exactly what they're going to do, you know, what their motivation is, and all that sort of stuff.
I love that process. And I think during your conversation with Anjanou, you also talked about how your first work with Mike Lee was in '93 on a play, and I was trying to look up more information on it. It was called It's a Great Big Shame. But what was it like doing, I guess, theater with Mike Lee, and it being your first time getting to work with him?
Oh my, it was crazy. It was, I mean, when you're in drama school, you do all these exercises and you explore and all that sort of stuff. And so you come out of drama school and then you go into the traditional way of doing things. But so going back to work with him again was like going back to school. You know, you get to use your imagination. You sit there and you go, okay, what, for example, with Hard Truths, you know, what does Pansy like? And the list would be tiny. But we'd sit there for ages going, okay, she doesn't like kiwi. She doesn't like coconut. He'd say, why? And I said, because they're hairy. And I said, and then he'd go, what about peaches? I said, she hates peaches. And I mean, it's like, you know, you sit there and, you know, it's just a wonderful experience because you're like a kid, you know, and he encourages so much curiosity. You just kind of remember like, oh God, yeah, this is what it's like to be curious, to want to sort of seek the particular in certain situations and find the nuances. And you have the time to do it, which is great.
I want to say also about this character of Pansy, I'm sure when people come up to you and talk about this movie, they're telling you about somebody it reminds them of, and they would never tell that person she reminds them of her. Like, this is a character who is like toxic in every way, and yet also reminds you of real people. So you're like thinking of somebody who like treats the waiter that way or treats the person at the furniture store that way.
Yeah.
Have you found yourself like being entrusted with secrets about people's personal lives and the people they're dealing with all the time?
Yeah, I mean, after one of the Q&As, a guy walked up to me and said, because I'd explained about the list of people, he goes, oh, my mother-in-law was probably on that list, right?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
And his wife kind of gave him a very dirty look. But I've had mothers, aunties, mother-in-laws, grandmothers. I mean, everybody's got a pansy. Everyone. Some people have even professed to being pansies. And I'm like, no, you're too self-aware. There's no way you could be a pansy, you know.
Which reminds me, by the way, I think when I met you a few weeks ago at that dinner, you had said that it's actually sort of comfortable for you to watch yourself in this role because it's so unlike you that you don't for a second think, oh, I'm watching myself on the screen. It's nothing like me up there.
Yeah. It's great because I remember at the wrap party, they were just showing little clips, you know, because none of us had seen, we don't see the film until we see the film. So we don't know what it's about in its entirety. And I looked up and I saw Pansy and I was like, oh my God, I don't look like that, do I? And Michelle was like, no, you don't. You smile a lot more. You're happier. That's not you. I was like, because it was, yeah, it just looks like somebody else. It's wonderful, actually. It's like my dream to transform as an actor, you know, and be unrecognizable. So it's a really, it's a really great thing to kind of go, wow, that's her. Yeah, that's not me.
Switching gears a little bit, just speaking too about you sort of transforming in a role. I recently got to finally see Peter Strickland's In Fabric, and that is just
Ooh.
this like crazy, Giallo inspired like sort of horror movie about a killer dress. And sort of, I just want to know, that seems like something so unlike the other work that you've done before. So, what was it like preparing for that? Are those the kind of movies that you enjoy, or did you have to immerse yourself into that sort of genre before you worked on the film?
Right. I think that was, well, not a turning point, but I kind of made a decision that I wanted to kind of go back to where I started in doing the type of work that I found interesting,
Mm-hmm.
that was going to be challenging and that I would have an experience with. And this script arrived. And my agent at the time sort of said, oh, this is a script. It's bonkers, but I love it. Right. But I think you should give it a read. And I said, okay. And then I get another message saying, don't read it. Watch this film first, and then you'll get an idea. And I was like, it's too late. I've read it, and it's crazy. And he sent me Barbarian Sound Studio.
Oh.
And about 15 to 20 minutes in, I emailed him back and I was like, I'm in. I just want the experience of working with this guy because he seems out there. I want to see how he sees the world. I just want to know, So that was great. I had a really good time on that. Getting into her, Sheila. Yeah.
Before we let you go, I have to ask one thing. Since we want you on the path to Oscars glory, if you have any awesome memories from your time being nominated in the mid-'90s for a movie that Ira and I, frankly, can't shut up about, Secrets and Lies.
We bring it up all the time.
One of the great Best Picture nominees of the 90s, a staggering film, a very emotional film where everybody is amazing. Every actor in it is fabulous. Do you have a particular favorite moment from that time?
From the Oscar time?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. It was so surreal. I was at the gym. I was doing a film called Mr. Jealousy, which is a Noah Baumbach film at the time. And I was in the gym on the treadmill. And coming from Southeast London, the Oscars were something that happened far, far away in, sunny Los Angeles. And we had no inkling that we were going to be even talked about in that sphere. So I remember being on the treadmill and there were these little tellies up and people were sort of chatting and then nudging and poking and pointing. And this guy came up to me and he said, you've been nominated. And I was like, what? For what? And he goes, from the Academy Award. And I nearly fell off. It was just like, oh my gosh. And I got off and I didn't eat. I had to go back to the gym, to the locker to get my stuff because I just went back to the little apartment I was staying in to phone home and sort of go, "Oh my, have you?" And of course, everybody else had heard. I was kind of the last one to know, but I remember that. That was lovely.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never gotten good news at the gym before. How exciting.
Yeah, it was very, very good.
Also, if our listeners have not seen you in Mr. Jealousy, that is like early Noah Baumbach. I believe is right after Kicking and Screaming, and
Yes.
such a beautiful small film from him. So
Yeah.
yeah, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us this week. I mean, you are truly phenomenal in this movie, and I just love your collaborations with Mike Lee. Like,
Yeah.
I hope you get to do another one. You know, at
Yeah,
some
me
point.
too. But you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't sort of. It takes maybe 28 years from now.
Keep the record going. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's our show.
Thank you to the glorious Marianne Jean-Baptiste for being here. I pray to God she gets an Oscar nomination for giving our favorite performance of the year.
If she does not, we'll have to take those hard truths.
Right. Another hard truth. It's right in the title.
Yeah. All right, we will see you next week with more Keep It. And make sure you go and get tickets to our live show at WBUR City Space in Boston. You can get tickets on our Instagram at Keep It Show. You can go to WBUR City Space's website or iramadison.com.